You're going to tell me who you are in 3 seconds. Go ahead, try it. Your name maybe, your job, the city you grew up in, a few stories you've told so many times they feel like facts carved in stone, and that, right there, is the first crack in the mirror. Because the thing you just handed me, that quick little summary isn't you. Not the you that's alive right now, breathing, feeling the chair under you, hearing my voice. It's a highlight reel. A greatest hits album playing on a loop, and you've been mistaking the album cover for the actual concert. Here's where it gets strange. Nobel-winning research into how the mind actually works has found something almost nobody wants to hear. There are 2 of you living in that one body, 2 separate characters, running 2 separate agendas, and most of the time they don't even agree on what a good life looks like. One of them is quietly having your life, moment by moment, right now, this second. The other one is sitting backstage with a clipboard, writing the reviews. And here's the gut punch. Only one of them gets to vote. Only one of them gets to decide what you remember, what you regret, what you call the best day of my life, and what you'd swear ruined everything. Guess which one that is. Not the one actually living it. Think about that for a second. Somewhere in your past there was a moment, a sunset, a laugh with someone you loved, a quiet ordinary Tuesday that felt, in the living of it, completely fine, maybe even good. But if the last 5 minutes of that day went sideways, a fight, bad news, an awkward goodbye, something strange happens in your head, the whole day gets rewritten, repainted, filed away under bad day, even though for hours and hours it wasn't. Researchers have a name for this trick your mind plays. They call it the peak-end rule, and once you see it, you can't unsee it in your own life. Here's an experiment that'll make your skin crawl a little. People were asked to dunk a hand into painfully cold water, nothing dangerous, just genuinely uncomfortable, for 60 seconds. Then a second time for 90 seconds, but with a twist. Those last 30 seconds, the water was nudged up by a single degree. Barely noticeable. Still cold, still unpleasant, just very slightly less awful at the very end. Now here's the part that should stop you cold. When asked which one they'd rather repeat, most people chose the longer one, the one with more total pain. Not because they enjoyed suffering, because the ending felt a little softer, and that soft ending was enough to rewrite the whole memory of the experience. Their remembering self reached back, grabbed the story, and quietly lied to them, and they believed it completely. So here's the question I want sitting in the back of your mind for the rest of this video, because we're going to come back to it, and the answer is not what you think. If the version of you living your life and the version of you remembering it don't even agree on what happened, which one is actually you? Stick around. Because by the end of this, you're going to look at your own memories, the ones you trust the most, the ones that built your entire sense of self, completely differently. If this is already messing with your head a little, good. That means it's working. Drop a comment and tell me which memory you're already second-guessing. Let's go deeper into the split, because it's bigger and stranger than one cold water trick. Picture this. You're told you're about to go through something painful, awake the entire time, fully conscious. But you're also promised a drug afterward that will wipe every trace of it from your mind. Not the injury, just the memory. Total blank. When researchers float this scenario to people and ask, "How do you feel about it now?" knowing you won't remember a thing, something unsettling happens. Most people shrug. Some genuinely don't care. As if the suffering, once it's guaranteed to be forgotten, barely counts as theirs at all. Sit with that. The self that would actually scream through the pain in real time, second by second, that self gets treated like a stranger, an extra. A body double standing in for the real you, who is apparently the one who remembers, not the one who feels. One psychologist behind this research put it in the most unnerving way possible. He said that he is his remembering self, and the experiencing self, the one actually living his life, minute to minute, is like a stranger to him. Read that again. The part of you that is alive at this exact second, hearing these words, feeling whatever you're feeling, that part might be a stranger to the you that exists in your own head. Now here's where the plot doubles back on itself. Because if the remembering self is really running the show, writing the story, deciding what counts and what doesn't, then your whole life isn't a life. It's a narrative. A story you keep editing after the fact, like a director in a cutting room trimming footage, throwing out the boring stretches, keeping the dramatic beats, deciding which scenes deserve a slow-motion replay and which ones get deleted entirely. And the wild part, you didn't choose to become the editor. Nobody handed you the job. It just happened, quietly, your whole life, without your permission. There's a small, almost throwaway detail from this research that hits harder than it should. Imagine a woman living with a memory-erasing illness, the kind where she can't hold on to a story of her own life anymore. No narrative, no highlight reel, and yet she still lights up at something beautiful, still responds to kindness with warmth. Her experiencing self is fully intact, fully alive, fully her, even with no remembering self left to keep score. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the story keeper disappears but the feeling person is still right there, fully present, which one was ever really you to begin with? Here's another layer, and this one is going to sneak up on you. Memory doesn't just misjudge pain, it misjudges fame. In one study, people were shown a list of completely made-up names that don't belong to anyone, invented purely for the experiment. A few days later, shown a new list mixing those fake names in with real minor celebrities. People would swear some of the made-up names sounded familiar, even famous. Not because they remembered where they'd heard it, just because it felt familiar, and their mind quietly translated that feeling into "this must be someone important." The researcher who first caught this titled his work something like "Becoming Famous Overnight," because that's exactly what happens. A name becomes a somebody purely because your brain processed it a little more smoothly the second time round. Now connect the dots. If your mind can manufacture a fake celebrity out of nothing but a familiar feeling, what else has it manufactured? What other facts about yourself, your personality, your reputation, the story of who you are just familiar feelings wearing the costume of truth? That question doesn't have a comfortable answer, but it's the one worth asking. Let's push further, because there's a much older trick your mind plays, and this one isn't even about memory. It's about what you're looking at right this second. 2 lines, same exact length, measured, verified, no trick of the ruler. But dress one end in arrows pointing inward, and the other in arrows pointing outward, and something happens that no amount of knowledge can fix. One line will look longer every single time. You can measure it, confirm it, even teach a class on why it's an illusion, and your eyes will still show you the lie. Psychologists have studied this exact image for over a century, and the unsettling conclusion is this: knowing the truth does not change what you see. Your conscious, reasoning mind can hold the fact. Your gut-level perception keeps rendering the fiction. Both are running at the same time in the same head, disagreeing with each other forever. Now here's the twist that makes this personal instead of academic. That's not just how you see lines, that's how you see yourself. There's a version of you that reacts before you've had a single conscious thought about it. Fast, automatic, running on instinct, pattern, habit. And there's a slower version trailing behind, checking the work, sometimes overriding it, mostly just rubber stamping whatever the fast one already decided. You've felt this collision before, probably today. The urge to say something sharp you know you shouldn't. The pull toward a snack you already decided to skip. The flash of judgment about someone before you've even heard them speak. That's not bad you fighting good you. That's just the architecture. 2 systems sharing one identity, constantly negotiating who gets to speak for you in any given moment. Here's a piece of this puzzle that almost nobody talks about, and it's a little humbling. Researchers ran an experiment where people believed someone nearby was in real distress and needed help. When each person believed they were the only one who could hear the call for help, most rushed to act. But the moment people believed others could also hear it, even though nobody else was actually doing anything, a strange kind of psychological permission kicked in. People waited. Some didn't move at all, not because they were cruel, because some quiet, automatic part of the mind had already calculated, someone else has probably got this. And that calculation happened instantly, beneath conscious thought, before the slower, more deliberate part of the brain even had a chance to weigh in. Here's the part that stings. When people are told this in advance, warned exactly how the experiment works, told precisely what's about to happen to their own minds, almost every single one is certain they'd be the one who acts, the helper, the exception. And then, when it's their turn. Most of them freeze anyway. Knowing the pattern doesn't exempt you from the pattern. You can learn the whole psychology of the illusion and still fall for the illusion. The same way you can measure those two lines and still see one as longer. So what does that mean about the you who's so sure of your own character? The you who says, "I would never do that," or "that's not who I am." That confident voice belongs to the slow, careful, reasoning system, the one drafting the story after the fact. But the choices, the real-time reactions, the actual living of your life, those often belong to the fast automatic system that never asks permission and never checks with the narrator first. Two systems, two selves, both wearing your name. Neither one is lying exactly, they're just not reading from the same script. So let's go back to the question I left hanging at the very beginning. If the self living your life and the self remembering it don't even agree on what happened, which one is actually you? Here's the honest answer. The one the research keeps circling back to, again and again. Neither one, completely. And also, somehow, both. The self that's alive right now, feeling the sentence land, noticing the pause I just put right there, that self has no voice of its own once the moment passes. It never files a report. It never gets a vote in what you call your life story. It just lives it and disappears into the next moment and the next, unrecorded, unresolved, gone. Meanwhile, the self-keeping score, writing the story, deciding what counts as the best year of my life, or the mistake I'll never forgive myself for, that self wasn't even there for most of it. It's working entirely off snapshots, peaks, endings, a handful of freeze frames it mistakes for the whole movie. And here's the quiet, strange comfort hiding inside all of this. You're not broken for feeling like two different people some days. You're not confused, and you're not failing to know yourself. You're just noticing something true that most people go their entire lives never naming. That identity was never a fixed photograph. It's closer to a conversation happening between two witnesses to the same life, comparing notes and mostly disagreeing. So what do you actually do with that? You start paying attention to the difference. Next time you catch yourself saying, "That trip was amazing," or "That year was a disaster," pause just for a second and ask which self is talking. Is that the truth of how it felt moment by moment, hour by hour? Or is that the editor in the back room, cutting the footage down to a highlight reel and calling it the whole truth? You don't have to fix this. You just have to see it. Seeing it is the whole shift. Because here's the thing about that girl living with no narrative left, who still lit up at kindness and beauty with nothing to remember it by. Somewhere in her, the part of being human that matters most, the feeling of being alive, never needed the story to be real. The story is just what we hand each other afterward, over coffee, in therapy, in videos exactly like this one. But the life itself, that already happened, fully, completely, whether the editor kept it or not. You're not just the story you tell about yourself. You're also every single moment the story left out. And maybe that's the answer worth sitting with tonight. Not as an answer that closes the question, but as one that finally makes peace with it staying open. If this shifted something for you, even a little, tell me in the comments. And if you want more of this, subscribe. There's a lot more hiding in that gap between the two selves.